Welcome to the All Right Now seminar series. I'm Ted Maker, and I'm glad you're here. Today's a continuation about the brilliant brain. The purpose is to provide you with an understanding about the simulation, attention, and awareness functions, how they contribute to suffering, and how our current hyperstimulated life is knocking them out of balance. Setting this framework for how these functions work make it much easier to proceed with the core practices. This is the 5th seminar in the series and corresponds to Chapter 2 in the book. If you've missed the earlier videos, you may want to go back and look at them. Each seminar builds on the previous ones. Let's get started. We're going to drop right into simulation. In 2010, two Harvard psychologists, Killingsworth and Gilbert, did an experiment. They took over 2,000 people armed with smart watches and randomly pinged them at any time and asked 3 questions. What are you doing? What are you thinking about? And how happy are you? Astonishingly, 47% of the time, the people were not thinking about what they were doing. Their minds was wandering. It was so predominant, the researchers called it the default state. And yet, the participants reported themselves as happier when focused on what they were doing, regardless what the task was. The title of this science article was, "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind." Why do our minds wander? We have this time-traveling ability for good reason. Imagining a future, role-playing, learning from the past, motivating us, reliving a pleasant moment. Mind wandering has made humans creative, versatile, and motivated. But problems arise when your brain is constantly under the stress of reacting to all perceived threats, like today. When it wanders, it tends to focus on me, ruminate on the misery of the recent past, or catastrophizing about a futile future. Additionally, too much time wandering can distort reality. In fact, the brain may begin to prefer the imagined world. Too much time ruminating may result in depression and frustration. Mind wandering affects mood and outlook, since the brain carries these feelings into the present when it returns. The brain wanders over 7 hours a day just by grabbing bits of time here and there. It drops into wandering whenever it determines there's no threat in the current moment or an imagined state is more interesting. Being lost in thought is the most disconnected you can be from the present moment. Being aware is the most connected you can be. All right now includes the means to go find your mind and bring it back to the present moment, and do it repeatedly until it's a habit and automatic. Let's move on to attention. What draws your attention? Novelty, bright colors, noises, movements, a person's voice, tone, your name, lots of stuff. Anything that stands out significantly from what your brain is predicting will draw your attention, good or bad. The attention's ability to focus on a particular object is only surpassed by its ability to filter out all the other objects that are available in the current moment. To use a metaphor, attention is like a flashlight shining on an object in a dark room. But attention is also turning off the room lights. Attention is the forefront of the brain's cognitive processing. The brain does nothing consciously until the object is drawn to its attention, whether involuntarily or purposefully. Attention tees up the determination of an experience in a given moment, whether the stimulus is from the past, present, or future. The object of attention is placed in working memory, which holds it for a limited time and then lets it fade away. To continue the metaphor, the flashlight shines, holds for a moment, and moves on. The brain can hold something in its working memory for about 7 seconds. Research suggests attention spans are shortening from stimulation overload. When attention skips about and can't focus, the brain follows along and is distracted. The flashlight is whipping around the room, flitting from one spot to another. Additionally, attention degrades. It becomes less effective at discerning external stimuli and retracts from internal stimuli that monitors and regulates thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. The flashlight beam's weakened, and it periodically goes out. Lacking that input, the predictive function triggers neural pathways for cautious and strong survival reactions and narratives. We overreact. We withdraw into negative biases and expectations. When we perceive reality through this negative lens, it impacts all our experiences. As a result, we suffer. What draws your attention? How long can it stay focused? Let's move on to awareness. Awareness is the ability to recognize and perceive what is around you, internally and externally, physical, perceptual. For our purposes of reviving it includes being receptive and attentive to all that is in the present moment, including what is beyond attention. Awareness accepts and allows whatever is present. In this way, it overlaps with mindfulness. Awareness holds all that is inside you, thoughts, feelings, sensations, reactions, all that your five senses detect externally, all that is swirling around in your perceptual field, brain constructs and conditioning like expectations, judgments, and stereotypes, and all that is present but may be just below the line of full consciousness, including your sense of self, intuition, strengths, values, intentions, and who you want to be. Just to be clear, whatever the object of attention is still here and has import, but any distortion by the brain's conditioning lessens when the object is experienced through the broad field of awareness. If attention provides focus, awareness keeps openness around it. Awareness keeps the room lights on. Awareness is access to all aspects of experience, unlike other brain functions like prediction, adaptation, and attention that target particular facets that ensure your survival. You need them all. Awareness is the counterbalance to narrow-mindedness, detachment, habitual patterns, and reactiveness. It's like your core muscles. Strong core muscles hold your body steady and balanced as it moves. Awareness does the same thing for the brain functions. Awareness helps the brain modulate the triggers and reactions by interpreting the experience with perspective and from a broader context. Awareness enables the brain functions to learn that they can dial back from their full steam ahead approach and still survive. The brain has the time to put in the effort to add appropriate concepts and instances to its memory so its predictions become more accurate, which reduces the number of false alarms, or other known as stress. The brain can pause and trigger neural patterns for specific, skillful responses to a stimulus, rather than the carpet bombing approach. As awareness becomes more prevalent, a cascade of changes occur affecting the other brain functions. As these changes progress, the sense of well-being revives, and you perceive experiences with a more balanced perspective. As you strengthen your core muscles, your body's movement and performance improves with less chance of injury. As you strengthen awareness, other brain functions' performance improves with less chance of overreaction and misinterpretation. Building awareness is a necessary step to revive the sense of all right now. Building awareness is covered in detail in Core Practice 3. So that's it for today. I will post some questions on the way out. If you think about them now, you will be better prepared for the practices. You now have a basic knowledge about how these 6 brain functions can greatly shape your perception of an experience in any given moment. Hopefully, by cracking open the door, you can recognize what your brain is doing and identify ways in which you may want to change. So let's move on to the core practices to learn how. The next seminar is about directing your attention to awareness using the STOMP technique. It is the seminal practice which leads to all the others. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.